and we're going to wait for our attendees. But thank you for joining. Today, I'm super happy to have you on because I know
Always.
I know that it's great stuff. So those of you that are slowly coming in, hello. I am going to launch a poll just so I know, and Evelyn knows what the age groups of the children that that we're talking about are. We each have our expertise, but today we're talking in particular about co-parenting and divorced families, which is very specific. So it is important for us to be able to speak on that in particular, because during quarantine times or during non-quarantine times, there are things that families that are blended or that are co-parenting are slightly different than the families that are coupled or married. So that's important to talk about, right? So, okay, so far we have our one attendee. People are joining in slowly. As you join in slowly, please answer the poll so we know the age groups that are here. And just so you guys know, the way that this works is that I will speak about pain points that I imagine you are having as a family, as a co-parenting family and a blended family. And then Evelyn's going to give us some, from Hatch and Bloom is going to give us some information about what she thinks are like, I told her, give me just 4 tips, just 4 that we want everybody to hold in mind. Those of you that just joined, please make sure to fill out the poll so we know the ages of your kids. And then we will open up for question and answer. And then this will also live on the website so you can listen to it later. So let's introduce you, Miss Evelyn, because most people know who I am. I'm the owner and founder of Stop Parenting Alone, but who are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Lena. Lena's
yes.
always an inspiration to me. My name is Evelyn Mendel, and I am a mental health therapist. I am the founder of Hatch and Bloom. That is my company. And what it really focuses on, even though I really work with parents, primarily parenting of all ages, but really my niche is really the first 5 years. I am obsessed with the first 5 years, all the brain development that happens in there. But even though that's my specialty, the things that I will talk about today are very applicable for all ages. It's really from a parenting standpoint and from also self-care standpoint of where you are. So it's not particularly going to be just for the littles, but the littles is really what I love the most. So I do private consults, I do parenting webinars, and I really love Lena. So thank you for having me.
And by the way, if you want us to hear us just chit chat and banter in a general conversation, we'll be on together again on Instagram on Friday. So together.
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
And I did want to say that I am divorced. So I am divorced. I am co-parenting, and I have she's about to be 5 years old. So I am definitely in the game. So just on a personal note. So I've had to navigate some of this kind of stuff that you guys are probably going through.
And I love doing, when I've been offering these free Zooms since the beginning of the quarantine, and I did make it a point to kind of separate the co-parenting and the blended families. And I've always have had a guest. Last time I had a mediator on with me, just because I want everybody to understand that okay, I'm going to share the results of this. So there's one of each in all the age groups. So I want parents to understand that this is particular, and there's particulars that you have as families that other families that are coupled or even a single parent will be dealing with it differently than you are. Okay, so hello. So we will answer questions after we share the pain points. So while we're sharing, you could type it into the Q&A like one of you did, which is great. Thank you very much. And or I will come back on and be like, okay, raise your hand and we will answer your question directly. But for now, most of I'm going to share my slide first. It's like, you know, what I imagine are your current pain points. And I like to do this in the beginning because I know that if I am answering your question, you know, it's probably something that's happening within normative development, right, of your child, as well as of your particular situation and scenario. So, okay, so the pain points that I imagine are happening right now where we are in this space of quarantine, back to school, and being a co-parenting blended family is these, right? You are questioning a routine, and that's true of all families, that's true of all children, but this gets a little dicey in a co-parenting situation, right? Because maybe one parent has a 9 to 5 and you've been working from home, but you have to be working particularly on the computer, right? And maybe your co-parent owns their own business, so that they're able to give a different type of time and attention to your child. So then when they are doing the mixture of the visitation right now in quarantine times, they're having a different parent. Because one parent can give more of their time and space and the other one may not be able to because of working. So in this pain point, my recommendation, if at all possible, is to communicate with your child's parent and let them know, hey, these are the times that I'm working. Can we do the same in both homes? You know, even if you don't have to, because you're an entrepreneur and you can give your own hours, it is important for the children, no matter how old they are, for them to both have a similar type of routine of the day. And it is important, especially in quarantine times, that the routine not be so flexible. As it pertains to co-parenting families, you know, if you can't agree on values and you can't agree on certain rules, but try your best to agree on the routine. That's the one thing that I would kind of tell you, that can be a North Star, that goal, right? And again, routine is not about time, especially with young children, with children younger than 8. Routine is about pattern. What happens, you know, when I wake up, when I have lunch, when I go to sleep. And the same, and this is good for co-parenting families, but it's also really good for quarantine times, because this quarantine time is so uncertain. And it is important to have some certainty in the pattern of our routine. But try to get into the communication and to get that together. I know that I had a sneak peek at her 4 her 4 advices, so I'll let her expand on that piece. Also the different ways of managing sheltering at home. I can see how each individual, we have different ways of dealing with our risk aversion at this time. So I have been telling all the adults to kind of manage, you know, where are you in this risk aversion spectrum, right? Are you a 10? And you have never left your house and you haven't gotten any takeout, you know, or are you a 1 and you were already ready to go to the beach and hang out with a group of people from the get-go? Our city, the Miami-Dade County, Broward County, you know, Southern Florida is doing, you know, with this phase, you know, in between phase 1 and phase 2, that we're somewhere between 5 and 7. So that's why everybody kind of feels a little bit crazy with the risk aversion, right? Somebody that's a 10 doesn't like that the city is opening up restaurants, even if people are eating outside, right? But somebody with a 1 is like, why do I have to sit in the hot sun, right? So they don't like the 6. So, but couples that live together are having a hard time with this difference in risk aversion. With co-parenting, I know that has been an extra stressor for some of you. So my recommendation again is to, if you can communicate with the co-parent and let them know, hey, I'm a 10 or I'm a 7 or, well, I'm a 3, right? And you know, average that out. And this one's hard. I think for me, when I think about it, from the mental health piece, for you as a parent, I can see how if you're an 8 and your co-parent is a 6 in this range of risk aversion, if before it was difficult to, hand your baby over to your co-parent, now it's even harder because now you have this extra fear, right? But you have to follow the visitation, right? And it's and what you as families, what you are doing is that you continue to do this balance of me, my child, the world, right? And I want to honor all of you that are listening right now, that the world is very, very chaotic, and it made something that was already difficult to manage a little bit harder. And I say that because I want to name it, because I don't want anybody telling you that this isn't hard. So I want you to honor that it is hard. And, at this point, it is about, always as it pertains to co-parenting, it's like, okay, what is good for my baby? And, what we know is that we want children to be able to love both of their caregivers and not feel guilty loving both of them simultaneously. I want that always to be your north. Your baby needs to love both of you simultaneously. And sometimes I get this feedback from parents that are co-parenting, that are like, but I don't trust him, or I don't trust her, I don't trust them. And it's like, okay, you don't trust them enough where you think that they're actually going to actually hurt your child, or you just don't trust them because that's the injury, and that is why you're no longer a couple. And always go back to that. But again, I want to name it. I want to name it and I want to claim it, because when you name and claim it, you can make better decisions. This is hard. This is difficult. And you guys get the prize that you did not want to get, of holy Jesus, when the world starts opening up and it being in this risk aversion spectrum range thing, it's very, very complicated for your family. So again, let your co-parent know, hey, I'm a 6 and I know you're a 4. Can we get to a 5? And just go down the list of the different things that you guys disagree on. And, it's important. But don't jump to the conclusion of, and they're a horrible parent because they're going to take them to the outdoor restaurant. That's not necessarily truth. And I know sometimes I bust out truths that people don't want to hear, but it's important for us to kind of know how hard that is. So for me, this is incredibly difficult. What's a pain point for communication? Again, I know Evelyn has information on that. And then the school year is the new one. The new, where am I in the risk spectrum? The world not giving us any information, because Miami-Dade County Public Schools and Broward County Public Schools have not really set out any set plan. They've let all of you guys know to choose between 3 models, but they haven't really said, hey, we're going to do this. If you get on Twitter and you follow the superintendent of schools, either one of them, the superintendent of schools in Broward was going to make a recommendation to the board about starting off virtually. The superintendent of schools in Miami-Dade County said, if we're in phase 1, I'm not opening a school. So that's where we're at. But again, that adds to your burden as co-parents, because maybe one of you wants to keep your baby at home and do virtual learning, and when the other one of you is like, no, my child is going back to the schoolhouse. So in this particular situation, again, it's back to basics of communicating, and communicating from the place of, and starting with, let's put our baby top of mind, but getting out of absolutes of like, they're a bad parent because they don't agree with me. And that's the hardest part of co-parenting, and not getting there. So notice that all of the pain points, the key is communication. And then young children. Okay, for some of you, you've made a decision to leave your child with one parent more than the other because it was just convenient for, I've heard this a lot from co-parenting families. And then there's going to be a regression in how they had gotten used to the visitation schedule. And I know that some of you are very, very worried about, worried about that, thinking about in the future. So I want to appease that worry. If you have made a decision that your young child is staying more in one home versus the other, just because it was easier for this time of quarantine, and you're worried about, okay, how are we going to get back to, the 4-3 or the week or the visitation that you had prior to quarantine, I kind of want you guys to take that off the table for now and think that once you do get back into the norm, it'll be about 3 weeks of transition, and you're not hurting the baby, and they're going to have a hard, crying and telling you they don't want to go with their, with the other caregiver and with the other parent, but right now, if doing one house more than the other is working for quarantine times, you have so of these other two big things to worry about that I kind of want to take that one off of the table until we go back to normal and you switch back. And then when you switch back, plan on that going back to normal visitation, and your visitation schedule, for that to have 4 bad transitional weeks, of which it does not have to hurt the child. You just have to name it for them. We're getting used to it again, baby. But I know you love mommy, and I know that you want to spend time with mommy. It's just that you've spent so much time with daddy, or vice versa, or mommy, daddy, daddy. We all have different types of families. So now, let's go to what you would like to share with the group, and
Yeah.
tell us what are, because I said, give me four top things, right? That have worked, that as a clinician, and as well that have worked for you, because you come from a place.
Yes.
Working.
So first of all, I just want to, can you see my video?
I can.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of say, as I'm hearing you talk about this, even though, one, personally, I've been through some of these things now, but two, like even knowing this, but hearing it all summarized, it's a lot. It's a lot for co-parents right now, because you know what? You decided not to live together for a reason, not to be together. It didn't work. And now it feels like you're finding yourself negotiating probably way more than you ever thought you'd be negotiating about things that are really important, that you probably not even realizing like we'd ever have to kind of think about what the risk of going to a restaurant would be or not, right? Or keeping your child at home versus school. This is just such brand new uncharted territory. And so it's a lot for parents.
Yep.
So it's really just important to kind of sit back and think about, like, this is new for everyone. This isn't really something that's been done before. And we're figuring it out as we go. But we do know, what we know is we know what's good for child development, right? And we know what's good for the parent themselves to be able to parent with the child's best interest. So if we put these two pieces together, we can kind of make decisions like that. And I think that you did like such a great job of already, I think I don't want to be redundant because some of the stuff you've already kind of come up with, but I'll kind of tell you a little more in detail of the things I had thought about. So Lena said communication a lot. That was probably, one of the key concepts, and it's absolutely true. This is really hard because, again, this is probably what was not really so great when you guys were living in the same home or together. I'm assuming this, but it is possible to have really great productive communication with your co-parent. it takes a lot of work and a lot of consciousness, because it takes a lot of taking out personal hurt feelings, triggers that you might have from this person, and continuing to be able to make it about your child. And if you keep the communication really child focused, this is one step in helping, helping it stay respectful, helping it stay direct to the point, and not making it about whatever your relationship was with your co-parent. This is now this new relationship where you are this united front, you're a team, and you're making decisions really for your child, right? Whoever maybe thought that there wasn't going to be ongoing communication with their co-parent, it's like, goodbye, we're broken up. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes when you have a child, and that's not how it really should go. We know that open dialogues, ongoing communication is one of the main ingredients to success when you're co-parenting, right? So you want to keep each other informed and updated. One tip, rather than using, like, the way you communicate is important, and a lot of times it can get tricky because one parent can kind of interpret it as attacking, and they can get defensive or blaming, right, or critical, like criticizing. So one suggestion is actually to try, instead of kind of labeling and be like, oh, like, our child came back from your house and this is what I'm seeing, or this is what they're doing now, or is kind of phrasing it in question form, I think can be really helpful. So here I have asked questions, and what I mean by that is, like, have you noticed that, our child's been asking for the iPad all day? Or have you noticed that it's been really tough for our daughter to open up about things? Or I wonder if you've seen this. So it's kind of approaching it from, rather than a blaming or an outright, like, this is your fault, or, maybe you did this to me. It's kind of approaching it from a more open-ended, I've kind of noticed this, what is your feedback? Have you noticed it too? And I think this is just like a more softened approach at being able to get the other parent kind of on board in the conversation. Then, I said here, keep it to child topics, but also another thing is being sure to keep the other parent updated of things that are going on in your child's life, and things that, what Lena kind of talked about, just communication about decision making is really important at all fronts. So from things that are, more minor to, like, okay, we're trying, if you have a younger one, I obviously deal with, like, parents of younger ones, but, we're trying these new foods, and this was what our experience was, to something as big as, we need to talk about how we see the school year going, right? What are we going to do? So make your communication productive. If you have a relationship that is not amicable with your ex, or you're not there, there are plenty of applications that are available where you can communicate with your co-parent. I know Family Wizard is one of them. Lena, do you have one that you like?
That's actually my favorite. The Family Wizard I enjoy, because then if need be, you sign, and mediators and judges and lawyers can see it. It's made for exactly that. And that creates for best behavior from both.
Yeah. Everyone is being monitored.
Everybody's on their best behavior. Yeah.
It's like you have the principal in your.
I always recommend the Family Wizard. I think it's well worth the money. And again, if you need it in case of before you sign on, everybody knows that it can be used with mediators and lawyers and judges.
Yeah. And even if you don't feel like that's necessary, and you can communicate even through email, I know a lot of people find that it's really productive to keep it almost like at a business-like tone, and communicate through email, where it's not so much of this, like, back and forth, text, yelling. It's like you kind of say what you need to say. You can take your time to think about it. It doesn't have to be as impulsive, right? And then the other person can also. Okay, the next thing that I have on here is collaboration, being a united front. I think this is tough. Remembering to kind of talk about, you guys are probably going to disagree on different ways of bringing up the child, or different boundaries or different limits, and we'll talk about this a little bit in consistency. It's okay to disagree and not be completely on the same page about everything. But what you maybe want to be doing is asking yourselves and asking your co-parent, what is our goal for our child? What kind of child do we want to raise? What do we want for our child, right? And usually I find that it's helpful to kind of work from the top and be like, if we want to build, resilience in our child, and we want our child to be respectful, and we want our child to have confidence and to succeed in these ways, how can we like work down and create that at the level that we are at right now? And this is where maybe you guys can talk about like things that aren't kind of doing that, things that are going on for you that maybe are going against your goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the value system, that's really what it is, and the belief system. And also being a united front also looks like kind of defending each other in front of your child, as much as that's like probably the last thing that you want to do a lot of the times, right? But it's kind of like if one parent, this happens actually with parents that are still living in the same house all the time that have different parenting styles too, right? We see that one will set a boundary and the other one will take away that parent's authority. And then what you're doing is you're just creating, you're the opposite of united front, where the child understands that everybody has different authority. The child doesn't feel like you're on a team, and you both have the child's best interest at hand. So it's being able to kind of, when you can put the child first in terms of communication, in terms of goals, I think this kind of can fall into place.
And I want to add one thing about this whole idea of collaboration and being a united front in front of the child. And this is for all age groups. This is as diminutive as, well, your father didn't call, so I don't know if you're going to go be with him.
Right.
Okay, that's not a united front. It's better to say, hey, your father and I have not been able to talk, and we haven't been able to come to an agreement. So include yourself in everything, even if it makes you throw up in your mouth. And why? Because of the North. The North is that your child has the freedom and the ability to both love both of you equally. And if you're continually saying, hey, your mother didn't call, so I don't know what's happening, or hey, your mother said that you can't drink this, you are now forcing the child to choose.
100%. And I worked with a family one time where this was going on all the time, and the mother would say, we can't get you those sneakers because your dad doesn't want to pay for it. And that was really hurting the child. It was hurting the child. The child felt like he didn't know who to align with. It gets really tricky. So yes, I love that you said that even at that tiny level of like, well, it doesn't sound so bad as your dad doesn't want to pay for it, but even saying something like your dad didn't call, therefore we don't know what we're doing, that still is an attitude of, right, sorry, I have my daughter's iPad alarm going off. So
and so keep that in mind and include yourself, and then in the background, work on talking to your ex or your co-parent. Right. But
hey, why didn't you call?
Child, we have not been able to communicate about this, so I don't have an answer for you right now.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Or even saying something like, let me talk to your father and then we'll decide, something where it feels like you're on a team. Okay. The next one is consistency is key. And Lena also touched on this. I love what she said. I was going to say something really similar about not being so caught up on, all the time slots. Like I remember in the beginning of quarantine, I don't know how many of you saw that social media schedule on social media, that schedule that was like every 45 minutes, like it was all color coded, and it gave me, the type A person, a lot of anxiety.
It made me mad. It made me mad.
Yes. So that is not what we mean by schedule and routine. No. It's really like your mornings, your bedtime, your meal times, when is your one-on-one with your child, and also the boundaries that you set in your home. What are your family rules and values, and can you get that to kind of be similar in both homes? This will, children thrive on predictability. Obviously, all of us are feeling like things are unpredictable right now. But in order to help our children feel safer and like things are more predictable, that comes with consistency in routines and boundaries and schedules. What I wrote about rituals here is sometimes it's helpful, like what Lena was talking about, visitations change, but even when they don't change and you just have a child come back to you or a child leaving you, you can create almost this ritual of like, when you come back, like this is what we're going to do together. Because sometimes, especially for the little ones, they can have a little iffiness in the adjustment of like the day they come home, right? So it's kind of nice to feel like every time I come back to my mom's or my dad's or house, this is how we kind of, it's our reunion kind of ritual. So something as simple as that, right? Or our goodbye ritual when we separate could be another little thing too. And it could be literally like, this is how we do our goodbye, fist bump, this, that, hug, you know. So it doesn't have to be like a 2-hour whole ritual with candles. It can just be a simple like
Or
that.
ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream fixes everything. I've had ice cream every week, so it's become my own ritual for self-care. Okay, and then commitment, it's kind of this ongoing theme that we've been talking about. It's really being able to commit continuously, and I think you have to remind yourself continuously that I'm making a commitment to do what's in my child's best interests, and hopefully getting that co-parent on board the same thing. And it's very likely and will happen that you guys get off track with that, right? It's just going to happen. We're human. So it's being able to kind of regroup and be like, okay, what's our commitment? Our commitment is, let's go back to working on, this is not helping our child. So let's get back on that path, right? And this obviously goes with not bad mouthing the other parent from you, or even if your child. So if your child says something about, well, my, dad didn't let me do this, or dad said, it's kind of that united front again that Lena was kind of giving that example of backing up the other parent, unless it's like something obviously like very harmful, but if it's
even
minor,
then you would talk to,
not
wow,
to the child,
right? You would talk about to the child. Oh, that sounds like you, instead of going, see, when you hear, see, this is what happens. Your antenna goes up and you're like, wait, they're hurting.
Your alert
right
system.
And the minute you go, wait, but what happened and how did it happen?
Right.
I want you to pause, breathe, and go, okay, wow, you sound really sad and scared about this. Tell me what you're feeling sad and scared about, right? And then you might hear that that they were just setting a boundary. Like, our kids tell us that we are bad and mean when we ask them
all day.
right? So especially if you are co-parenting and the child is under 8, they're going to tell you that the other parent was mean. And you can guess that it's because they were asked to brush their teeth, they were asked to go to bed, they were asked to, not to ask for more candy, they were asked to get off the screen, 6 out of 10 times. But again, you are not together for a reason, and you're right. It's so your lack of trust then turns on this other antenna, and
right.
If you know that they love your child because it's their child too, it's best if you have that relationship with them to give them the benefit of the doubt, and to know that your child is also telling you that you're mean.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing all day. But so I was actually going off of that. I just want to piggyback. Yeah, that's the new one. Piggyback of that is the 5th one I was going to add was control, and it was literally about that. It was like really looking at what is in your control, what is not in your control, and not just in this like negative way of like always kind of thinking that this parent is out to undo and whatever work you're putting into this child, right? This goes to what I was talking about with the parenting goals. There's not just one way. There's not only simply one way to get to a goal. So some person might have a completely different style and a completely different method from yours, and that doesn't mean that it's harming your child, right? It just means that it's not the same as yours. So this is what Lena's kind of talking about with trusting and not feeling like you need to micromanage everything about this co-parent, because that's definitely going to get it's going to make things messier between you and the other parent too.
Right. And again, as as a developmentalist, as an attachment theorist, which I am, and I kind of see the world through the lens of attachment and through the lens of development for all age groups, right? Sometimes I see a 45-year-old and I'm like, oh, you didn't learn some skills when you were 5, right? I I want to reiterate that I want you as a co-parenting in a blended family for your north to be, hey, our child deserves a relationship and to love both of us without feeling pulled or tugged for alliance with
100%.
either one of
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
Um, and that, again, it's very, you can do that in a very subtle way. Um, you can end up making your child think that they have to have alliance with one of you. So it's important to, and again, it's okay if you mess up.
Yeah.
If you mess up, you get to tell your baby, you know what? I think I confused you. I made you think that daddy was being mean. Blah, blah, blah. Clean it up. Clean it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Repair.
so we've reached the part of question and answer. So I will open it up for everybody to raise their hand if they want to talk directly to us, or not. You can write it in the Q&A. So, but I'm going to open with the first question then that's here. So it says, hi ladies, hello. What is the best time during the divorce process to tell the kids that parents will be divorcing? Should a mental health professional be involved in that discussion? I have an answer for that. um, as soon as you have enough information for the child, right? So why are we all? So I'll make an adult example so that you understand why it's a good example in the divorce process. Um, uh, so right now we have no idea what to do about school. Why? Because they're not giving us any information. Right? So you don't have the information that you need so that you know how to feel and how to make a decision about it, right? So as soon as you have some information, okay, one of the parents is going to leave, or and they're going to be with the grandparents, and as soon as you have enough information to share with the child, and I would share as quickly as possible, because FYI, if you're separating, your child has already been in the energy of the two of you. You know, no, very few of you are Meryl Streeps. So you have to be an amazing actor. But your child knows that something's up. So as soon as you can, and do you need a mental health professional there? I rarely recommend that, because that cues the child that it's bad.
Mhm. Or
So
that it's something that you can't handle, just like, they're
correct,
not safe just with them.
correct. So what would you say,
Yeah,
Evelyn?
I was going to say actually something very similar, and the same thing, that if you tell them without having any answers, because I think it depends also, that I don't know what ages this person's referring to, but for young children, like, they're very concrete thinkers, right? So they're very like, okay, what does that mean? Like, where's my stuff gonna be? Who's gonna take care of me? What is,
That's the number
and if
one question. I was like, where are my toys?
where
What toys will I have where?
right, right. So these are, and so the example you gave about school is true. It's like throwing it out there. Oh, there's going to be a change in school, but like, we have no other information. All it does is it kind of turns on our anxiety system a little bit. Like, oh, things feel really uncertain. So, it's almost better for little kids to not for you to not just open up this can of worms with, if you can't give them any information at all, being like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
And with
Um,
adolescents, believe it or not, some people think that they can sit and talk, but it's hard on them as well, right? So with adolescents, sit down and have a conversation with them about what it means for them for school, what it means for them with their social activities. And those of you, if I remember correctly with the poll, there's some of you that have 10 and 12-year-olds. You know, that 12-year-old, unfortunately for the 12 and up, I always want you to honor their social calendar. So with visitation, even if they're at the other parent's home and the other parent moved from Miami-Dade to Broward, but your child has baseball or a party, or they also get to do the baseball or the party. no matter what parent they're with.
Right.
So for children 12 and up, please, even 10, I would start as early as 10. As soon as they start those extra activities, that belongs to them. That's their world. So no matter what parent they're with, their social calendar and their after school activities calendar need not change for them. And so I say share as quickly as you can when you have as much information into how it's going to affect their day to day.
Mm-hmm.
That you think that's a
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing I just want to kind of throw out there is that not to not expect a child to just take it all in that very first conversation.
yeah, it's
Sometimes
not a
they
one and done.
right,
No.
and sometimes they actually won't even react like you the way you imagine, right? This happens a lot with the little, so kind of like you said, like, where are my toys going to be? And then and then they might ask you every day for the next month, like, where's daddy, where's daddy, where's daddy, right? So it's just also being aware that this is going to be an ongoing conversation, and I would give the child the space to kind of like how much can they take at any given moment. Sometimes I think we flood them with too much too.
Yes. Yes.
So read your child's cues.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first conversation, I would say, you're making really good points. The first conversation is more about, this is what it's going to look like, right? And the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, it's going to be like as it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right, they're going to have questions, and also, it depends on the relationship that the child has had with parents. Each of us as parents and as caregivers, every caregiver has kind of like something that they give the child, usually just because of personality, because of gender rules that we follow, which are silly. But sometimes one parent is the playful parent and the other parent is the holding and loving parent. In the case where the parents split, they each have to take on a little bit of that role that they didn't used to have. So if you were the caring, loving, holding parent, and the planner and the scheduler, right, that's something that this other parent is going to have to kind of not do perfectly, because they're not going to, but but do more of. And the one that's less playful has to learn how they play. Right, so that's another thing that's different.
Yeah.
For co-parents, because even a single parent who's always been a single parent, that they don't have to respond to anybody.
Right.
It's still,
And the kids sometimes will be like, well, daddy does it this way, right?
right.
So this is
Right. And when they say that, you can say something to the effect of, yeah, I know, but but daddy and I still, do breakfast, and daddy and I still do da-da-da, and daddy and I, and that's true. And mommy has one way of doing it. And and you can tell them about it, mommy and
yeah.
are like ice cream. It's still ice cream. It's just sometimes chocolate and sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. And you might like the way daddy does it better. Yeah, he's better at some things. And that's so hard to own up to, but I think those are like the united front kind of thing too.
Yes,
And also it's
100%.
honoring your child's feelings about what's going on. It's okay for them to miss the other parent, or to feel like, the other parent was really good at doing something, and it's okay. You don't
Right.
have to be, you're not replacing the other parent, which I think is also
Right.
sometimes things that we get stuck on.
So if some of you have a question, either hit participants and raise your hand, or just unmute yourself, because there's just a few of us, and ask your questions, so either one of us can answer it for you. Any questions? All of you have ability to unmute yourself as of right now. Quiet. We gave a lot of information, a lot of flooding information.
Kind of my MO.
Anything at all, or type it. You could type it in the Q&A or in the chat, and then we can ask away. And if not, then we finish up our little chat. So let us know if, and then
we got a question.
Perfect. For 4-year-olds, how do I ask them if they want to talk about it? Here's my recommendation. I don't know what you've done in your home because this one's very specific for you, Evelyn. My recommendation is get into a ritual with your kids, especially when they're little, because I want this to last till they're adolescents, of just like narrating the day. So today we got into a big fight because you didn't want to pick up your toys and mommy forgot and mommy screamed really, really loud and she scared you. And how did you feel about that? And da 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 da. Oh, I was fine, right? And okay, and what else? What other? How are you feeling? What's the best part of your day? What's the worst part of your day? But if you do it every night, or every day at dinner, or every day, you know, on the way to school when we finally can drive somewhere to take school, your child can predict that time is coming. It's for some children, especially those that are more slow to warm and observant and quiet, or those that tend to avoid emotions, coming to talk to you is like the first barrier, right? And this gets really, really big. I'm glad that you're asking now with your 4-year-old, because you know, you're going to set this up so that, and I want you to keep it up till your child leaves your house, right? I have a 15-year-old and she knows that, you know, 4 out of 7 nights, I'm going to go into her bedroom and be like, hey, it's psychotherapy, mommy, time to talk to me. And she's like, oh, but there's sometimes when she just smiles and then she says it, but we have a pattern. So make it a ritual, make it a pattern. If you haven't done it already, I know that if you have a 4-year-old, you have a bedtime routine. So just add what was the best part of your day, what was the worst part of your day, and that's it. And be mindful, because in co-parenting scenarios, the underbelly question of this question is, how do I find out what's happening at dad's? And you don't, unless you ask the other parent. You do not get information about the other house from your child. Evelyn, anything you'd like to add to my rant?
No, you know, I was going to add, just from a personal experience standpoint, that so I got separated when my daughter was 1.5. She was really young. So this has kind of been her norm. But now she's turning 5, and, you know, she's very into, you know, movies, and also just observant of family dynamics. And she went over to my mom's house the other day and found my wedding album. And so she's now bringing this up now, like way later, you know, bringing this up like, oh, you used to be married to daddy. He was your husband. And I kind of let her lead the conversation. So whatever it is she wants to know, I'll answer her honestly. And I'll just be like, yeah, we were married one time. You know, that's us in the picture. She used to be, and she will repeat it. She will repeat it. And I know that she's going to ask me until she feels satisfied, right? So when she feels satisfied and she moves on, it's not that this conversation is like closed and done with. So I think that, but going with what Lena said, like she and I have already built, we've spent a lot of time investing in building this kind of like connecting time, and also I'm trying to make it really not intimidating for her to speak to me, but I need to check in with her, obviously, more than expecting her to just come up to me. And I usually find that it's in these moments where noise is quiet, we're laying in bed, the end of the day, and I'm fully present, fully present, right? So she's not, as I'm typing on my computer, she's not going to come up to me and say something like this.
Never.
Right. And then I give her that piece, you know, I'm like, do you want to know more? And if she's like, no, then we move on for the day. And I just let her kind of bring it back up too. So I let her lead a little bit.
And I would say, because it's popping into my mind, that this check-in question evolves from bedtime, you know, between the 0 to like 7 to dinner time, you know, or a meal, right? And then, but remember, you lead the, okay. And then I love humor
Mhm.
I love kind of making it light and sweet, so and for your child to know that you're going to ask the same question every time so they can count on it. And in adolescence, it is the car confessional. It is the, we're both, they're helping me cook or they're helping me clean up. And you're like, hey, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? Anything. And if every single day they're like, oh, nothing, forget it, I don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But they know that door is there. And there's a follow-up to our response, which is I was going to ask, how do you maintain that ritual when they are at the other house? When they are at the other house, they'll have a different issue with a different ritual in the other house. So you can let the other parent know, hey, I heard these crazy ladies talking and they told us to ask our kids the same question every day to kind of open up the conversation. You may want to try that. It works for me. Just like Evelyn said earlier, what works for me is
Right.
asking them at bedtime, I don't know what works for you. What works for you? And then maybe the other parent tells you, and we're playing, and we're like, just like, I just ask them questions and they talk to me and they're like, oh, okay. So yeah, those tiny little things, those are tiny moments that we cannot micromanage in the other home,
Mhm.
but we can share. And besides asking questions when you think something's going wrong, also share what's really working for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
What really worked? You know what he really likes? When I take him to books and books, and or like, share with the parent, share with the person that you're caregiving with. That's important.
Oh, I miss books and books.
I know, right? I miss books and books too. I've been trying to buy my
Yes.
books and books instead of Amazon. So
Yeah. And but I really like that too. That's true about the sharing what works, but also even just from your own perspective rather than framing it as you should do more of this, right? So it's
right.
like, oh, this is really going great at our house and they're responding really well to it. And so
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So any last questions? Any last concerns?
yes, we got another question.
We got another question. Perfect. Let's see. Is it beneficial or is it a little painful for co-parents to do certain activities still together as a family? Um, I do not recommend that for anybody younger than 6. Here's my why, and Evelyn, you can agree or disagree with me. They get very confused. It's very so. Cognitively, a 7, an 8, a 9-year-old can understand that Sundays I have dinner with mommy and daddy, even though, with my parents, even though they don't live in the same home anymore. And you have to, like, if you do a Sunday dinner, it has to be like, even if Oprah Winfrey called you, Oprah would have to come to your dinner. Oh, we have this family dinner. I'm sorry, Oprah, I can't go unless they come, because to me, young children have a way of like predictability. And I think, especially in the beginning months, it's very, very confusing. The kids that can do the one-off dinner or are older children. With younger children, the one thing that does continue to happen that I do recommend is because with younger children, visitation is different, is kind of like drop off and pick up a school. That's something that could happen every day. And also, to me, my rule, and you can agree or disagree with me, Evelyn, is that school is neutral. So if there's a play, if there's an event, both parents can and should be there. But inside of your home, where some parents decide that they're going to have dinner Tuesdays and Thursdays together to keep family, you have to be very strict about it if you do keep it. What are your ideas?
So I didn't practice that in my own situation with my daughter. It was never so we don't have like this routine thing, like activity that we were like dinner every Sunday, or but every once in a while we would like go out for breakfast. um I think it just depends, honestly. I don't have like a cookie cutter kind of answer to that, because I think it depends on your dynamic. It depends on the child. It depends on where you are in the divorce, right? Because for me, it was more about of this like united front. That's all it was. So it was like, mommy and daddy love you, and we're still a team, and we can all still this is what we're showing you, right? We're showing you that we're on the same team, and it worked for her. But I could see how that can confuse other children that have a difficult time accepting um, the different roles now and the different dynamic now. And so I think it just depends
Mhm.
on the
Yeah.
situation. And I agree with you of like not doing like everything like so ritual like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not so common, but but you know what, like my ex and I have gotten we've become very, very amicable, and that's just the way we decide to like design our own lives, and not really um if it's in the best interest of our child, and not really care what people think, because a
Correct.
lot of times like he'll come literally even to my own family's like family dinner sometimes, and he'll be invited sometimes, and that's just the way that that's our norm. But
Right.
it's never caused confusion,
Yeah.
or it's also, my daughter was also 1.5, so it's not like she went from, a 5-year-old that experienced us doing everything together, to now we're completely in a separate home, and now we're back together. Like, I think it's different.
And I think so I like that, right? What I find is that some parents in the early separation time
Yeah,
think that they should do it because it's better for
just
the child, and
right, right,
not. I want to bust that myth.
right,
It's not.
right.
It's not.
And it's actually a lot of times prolonging, like dragging out this, like, I don't want my child to feel pain, so we're gonna like sit together and like pretend nothing's different, when things really are different, and your child actually just needs you to accompany them through
Right.
their pain, right?
Right. And I always give this example, again, because I enjoy humor. It's like, if you want a nice behind, you do a lot of squats. So if you want your child to get used to being in two homes, allow them to practice, right? Allow them to be alone with each of you. Allow them
Mm-hmm.
to feel the natural human response of sadness, and missing the other parent when they're with you, and missing you when they're with the other parent. That we don't need to, that's not what hurts children in in separation of parents. Their sadness, their missing the other parent, their anger, that's not what hurts children. What hurts children is what I keep harping on: feeling as though they have to align or be loyal
Truth,
to
yeah.
one of the parents. That is what hurts children in co-parenting and separation situations, not the sadness that they feel that they miss their other parent. So it's not easy, but it's a good situation. All right, guys, we ran out of time. This is recorded. It will go up
Thank you.
by next week, so that you can hear it again or share it with your co-parent in case they weren't here. Just say, hey, I thought this was a great thing and answered some of my questions. Go ahead and share it. It's a great opportunity. And in my website, if you go to the blogs and you do the search, you could put young children divorce, and there's a blog that I wrote about young children and divorce. And if not, reach out to info at Stop Parenting Alone. And if you're in the very, very, very beginning, I will send you the one sheet that we offer parents to think through visitation, as thinking about child development situations. And
Thank you.
Evelyn, where can they find you?
So they can find me. I'm really, really bad at Facebook, but I'm okay on Instagram, and it's Hatch and Bloom Co. And my website is www.hatchandbloom.co. It's not with an M, not .com. It's very annoying. I know, I'm sorry. And you can always email me to find out more about the webinars that I do, Evelyn@hatchandbloom.co. And it's on some of Lena's Instagram too. So you guys can
Yes.
find it there. Yeah.
And we'll be together again on
Yes.
Friday.
Yes. So
Yes.
if you want to tune in for our live, send in
Yeah.
any questions you might have. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Always, always. All right, guys. Until next time. Bye.